You know those memories, the ones that are just seared into your brain? They're so powerful, so crystal clear, it feels like it all happened 5 minutes ago. But what if I told you that those very memories, the ones you trust the most, are actually the most flawed? Yeah? Let's get into it.
All right, quick question for you. What'd you have for lunch yesterday? You probably remember, right? It might take a second, but you can likely picture it.
Okay, now, how about lunch last Tuesday? That's a lot tougher, isn't it? See, our brain is really good at just tossing out the mundane details that don't seem all that important. But let's flip that completely. I want you to pull up your most vivid memory. You know the one. Maybe it's a graduation, the birth of a child, or the exact moment you heard some shocking news. Got it in your head? Okay, hold on to that memory. I'm willing to bet you feel like you remember everything about it. Not just the main event, but all the little details. Where you were standing, who you were with, maybe even the specific words someone said, or the clothes you were wearing. You feel absolutely certain about those facts, don't you?
It's this feeling that these memories just get seared right into your brain. They feel permanent, totally unchangeable, and you can recall them perfectly, as if it were yesterday.
But here is the big twist. The thing that psychologists have uncovered. What if that perfect memory, the one you're so sure of, isn't entirely real?
To really get our heads around this, we need to dive into the science behind these mental snapshots, and that brings us to this fascinating concept known as a flashbulb memory.
So this term was actually coined way back in 1977 by two psychologists, Brown and Kulik. They were studying how people remembered hearing about these huge, emotionally charged events, like the assassinations of JFK or Martin Luther King Jr. And here's the key part. A flashbulb memory isn't the memory of the event itself. Nope, it's the memory of your own personal circumstances when you first heard the news.
So what's going on in our brain to create this? Well, scientists believe two key parts are working in total overdrive. You've got the hippocampus, which is kind of like the save button for new memories, and the amygdala, our emotion processing center. The intense emotion from the amygdala basically screams over to the hippocampus, hey, this is a big deal. Save this.
But here is where the problem starts. The very importance of the memory is what begins to corrupt it. It's through something called the rehearsal illusion. And this is basically how a memory slowly turns into more of a story.
It works kind of like this. First, the emotional event happens. Second, because it's so significant, you rehearse it. You think about it a lot, you tell the story to other people. But here's the catch. Each time you recall it, your brain isn't just playing a recording, it's rebuilding the memory. And in that process, it fills in tiny gaps with details that just feel right or seem plausible. And over time, those invented details get woven into the fabric of the original memory, and you honestly can't tell the difference anymore.
Now you might be thinking, that's not me. My memory's different. Well, researchers had a unique and tragic opportunity to test this whole theory on a massive scale after the September 11th attacks.
So in one key study at Duke University, researchers had volunteers write down their memories of 9/11 right after it happened, and also a totally ordinary memory from around the same time. When they followed up with them later, everybody was super confident that their 9/11 memory was perfect, but the results showed this huge disconnect. Their flashbulb memories were just as inconsistent and inaccurate as their boring everyday memories. Their confidence was high, but their actual accuracy was low.
And get this is the really crucial part. A staggering 42% of the errors in their memories came from the very distinctive, vivid details they were most certain were true. The parts that made the memory feel so real were often the parts that were flat out wrong.
And this wasn't a fluke. Another, much larger study of over 2,000 people confirmed this on a huge scale. They recorded people's memories a week after the attacks, then checked in at 1 year, 3 years, and then 10 years later. The consistency of these memories dropped a lot in the first few years before it finally stabilized at a much lower level of accuracy.
I mean, this chart just says it all. Look at that massive gap between how accurate people believed their memories were and how accurate they actually were when compared to what they originally said. Their confidence barely budged, even as the real facts just drifted away.
And here's the final number from that huge study. By the 3-year mark, on average, participants only remembered about 57% of the details accurately. That means nearly half of their vivid, seared-in memory was either wrong or had just been forgotten.
Okay, this is probably feeling a little unsettling. If you can't trust your most vivid memories, what can you trust? It's a fair question. So let's break down what's reliable and what's, well, not so much.
So here's the good news. You're not completely making things up. The core of the memory, the basic facts of what happened, and, crucially, the core emotion you felt in that moment, those parts are probably pretty accurate. Your brain gets the gist right.
But all those vivid details, the little cinematic flourishes that make the memory feel so fresh and real, the exact words, the clothes, the specific location, those are the parts that are far less trustworthy. They are the story you've been telling yourself.
So what does this all mean? Your most powerful memories aren't perfect recordings. They're more like living stories that you edit and polish over time. And if that's true for the memories you hold most dear, what does that say about all the rest of them?